title. Now, once it does, I should see you. But I thought on the preview before I used to see both the guests, but whatever.
We're here. We're live.
We are. Okay. Setting up your meeting, but we are live. Welcome. I cannot see you or myself, but we are redirected. I probably need to pop out of, there we go. Yay.
Yay.
It's always
technology.
It's always a small miracle to me, transitioning from Zoom to Facebook. Welcome, everyone. We're just a few minutes behind schedule because of a little technology glitch, but gosh, you just gotta love technology, bringing us all together here. Welcome to episode, I wanna say 6, and we've got Miss Jennie Norris with us. I'm gonna give her proper introduction in a minute here, but just a little housekeeping on the back end from last episode. So many of you probably know that we have been reaching out and asking for your help to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We don't have our own URL yet, but that's the whole goal. Once we get 100 subscribers, we get our own unique URL. So I believe we started at 21 and we're at 45 or something. We're giving away prizes in each increments. And last week, actually it was a 2-week contest. The lucky winner of $195 value e-design or staging consultation is going to be awarded to Miss Gail Watkins. Her and her husband are real estate team couple. And yay, if I had some Foley applause, yay,
Exactly.
Gail. I will be emailing you this digitally, Gail, and I think we are going to put probably a time limit on it, reasonable time limit, but come and claim your prize. And so for going forward, every 20 increments, we are going to do the same thing. We may switch it up, but I think for the next 20, we're going to do the same thing. So if you could use a home refresh, an office refresh, a furniture arrangement advice, a color consultation, whatever, you can pick my brain. We call it Pick Cat's Brain. During that time, it's a 30-minute consultation. So go to YouTube, subscribe, and hit the bell. I need a bell. Hit the bell.
Ding, ding.
Or I guess they call it smash the bell. And you might say, well, what does that do? It gets so that you get notified when there's new content. And we take these shows and my husband and business partner, fancies them up and puts them on YouTube. Plus we have other content at least once a week that we upload. So enough of my commercial.
You can also, I think it's also people when they subscribe, they don't have to, it's not like they have to get notifications. I think a lot of people might be like, well, if I subscribe, am I going to get a barrage of stuff coming to me? And you don't. You only see it when you go into YouTube. Anything you subscribe to, those things will show up in your portal, your channel. But
Yes.
It's not like they're going to get spammed and get a bunch of stuff. So it's totally
Thank you,
easy just
Jennie.
to subscribe. Yeah.
Thank you, Jennie. And Jennie, by the way, is a marketing guru amongst other things. And we'll go into all of her credentials. Well, some of them. We don't have time for all of them. But thank you for that, Jennie, because that is so true. Some people may think, I'm going to get diluted like with emails. And like I subscribe to a ton of them, from art to cooking to you name it. And it just shows you when you go in there, something's been uploaded. It's up to you to watch it. It's not forced on you. So thank you for pointing that out. That is excellent, excellent information as usual. So we got the winner out. Okay. So Jennie Norris is our guest, and I've known Jennie for a minute. I was very lucky and honored to be able to train and receive my ASPM, my Accredited Staging Professional Master's certification through Jennie in Denver. She is let me get it all right here. She is okay, I need other glasses. The fun beach glasses have to go here. She's the chairwoman of IHOSP, International Association of Staging Professionals, president and CEO of StagedHomes.com, which is the Cadillac of staging education, which is where I got
that.
And that actually was coined by someone I was teaching a Trek class. They said, "Oh, that's the Cadillac," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. That is the Cadillac."
We would be like the Corvette we'll be like the Corvette or the Lamborghini or something. If
there you go. Yeah, let's even up level it. Yeah, actually, absolutely. It's like, you want a Yugo or you want a Lamborghini? It's your choice. She is also the owner of Sensational Home Staging, serving the Denver area. And Jennie, bless her heart, has upstarted staging businesses in California, and then started not knowing anyone came to Denver. So she knows how to build a business, and she's exemplary in marketing, amongst other things. And Jennie, with that, what did I miss? Introduce you. What would you like to tell our audience about yourself?
Well, you covered it all. I mean, I do love marketing. That was my background before getting into staging, and staging is a marketing tool, as we all know.
Yes.
So,
you know what? That's cause for pause, because many people do not know that. They think it's fluffing pillows, and it's, pretty. It is the most strategic marketing tool you can use to sell your home. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually had a realtor this week. We're staging a house, a little condo today. I think it's less than 600 square feet. And he's like, "I don't know if I want to spend the money." And I said, "Well, you're investing the money to get the most." And I said, "Just raise the price $5,000, because the staging is like $1,000. I said, "Raise the price. You'll more than make the difference up." And he was like, "Oh."
Okay. Where's there a bell? Okay. I was going to save this for the end, Jennie, but that is a big thumbs up. Okay. A lot of people don't know that. And I had experience a couple of years ago with a very savvy realtor who, she was the 5th realtor. Oh. She knew she had to do something different. She presented staging. Of course, they had sticker shock at whatever it was, 3,500 or something, good size home, 2-story. So she said, "Look, let's raise the price of the home to cover the majority of the staging." They did. They sold it in 10 days. Everybody was happy. And, if you keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result, what do we call that? Insanity.
Yep.
Right. And a lot of realtors, especially new realtors, may not think of that, to go, "Oh, ding, ding, ding. I could raise the price, and so that I can maximize their equity, my commission, less days on market, and it's just such a win-win." So yeah, that's a real important, thing to mention. Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that, Jennie.
You're welcome.
I've got one coming. We've got coming up next week. That's 1,100. I think that's the smallest we've done. And what's that?
Go ahead. I was going to say, we've been getting, like, this week, a 396 square footer. Somebody asked me I know.
Oh, nice. I mean, I'm excited. Little bungalow, I just love a challenge. When I was in new home sales, it was like, we used to say there's no perfect home. There's no perfect tree. Well, I think all trees are perfect, but there's no perfect home. And it's our job, the top of the top staging professionals, to do correction, so that people aren't looking at the blemishes or the odd floor plan. And I love those kind of challenges. It's a sleepwalk to go in and do, model home, traditional, floor plan, right? But when you've got something challenging, it really makes you exercise those design muscles, staging muscles. Yeah. And creates really magic. It creates magic. Yep.
Yeah. And so so in addition to all those other things, I have all the kids. So it's like I'm outside in the backyard, because right now in the house I have all 4. Well, see, one of my kids is not here, but 3 out of my 4 kids, plus my niece, plus a friend who flew out with my daughter. So they're here for the week before a baby shower. Yeah. So the house full. So I'm in the backyard
where you can get some peace, huh?
It's actually a very pretty day. Last time I was in the backyard, it started raining on me. I was doing my show, and it starts raining, and then it got rained and harder and harder and harder. So I had to run inside.
Oh my gosh.
But no clouds in the sky right now. So.
What episode was that? I got to watch that replay.
I was like 2 weeks ago. I think it was either Catherine Lewis Brown, or I can't remember who it was.
Oh, okay. I've got to like go and watch all the.
Or Shay Kent. It could have been Shay. I had her on to talk about marketing and so forth.
Yeah, so. I've watched some of her podcasts or things like that. Really, really good info. So Okay, so we're at 10:20 and Jenny and I could chit chat forever. So we want to stay on point here. We've got some kind of talking points, but we want this to be conversational and informative for all things, not just real estate, which is why I named the show Kat's Home Chat Live, because really one of my favorite movies, and tag the line, there's no place like home. Whether we're selling it or we're dwelling in it, there's really no place like home. And there's so many entities and facets and nuances, and it's very complex. And I love the complexity of it. But it just evokes whether you're, someone's buying your home or you're selling your home or you're trying to fix up your space to live in your home. It's just, I don't know, magical. Okay, I'm gonna use that word magical again. So our talking points today are, I believe the first one I got off my phone here is, did you know that your listing or your home, if you're selling it, is in a competition? So Jenny, give us some talking points on that, because I think some people, come from a direction of, and I have a real estate background. I hold my real estate license, so I'm very familiar, 25 years. And I know, Jenny, I was reading your bio. I had no idea you had real estate licenses in multiple states.
Well, I don't. I teach. I'm licensed to teach real estate courses in multiple states.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I was like, we never talked about that. Okay, gotcha.
Not a realtor. Don't want to be a realtor. John wears that hat. Wears it well.
John.
It's Stephen.
That's for John.
Stephen, don't want to wear it.
It's not nearly as fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we are part of the real estate industry, which is why John and Jenny work so good and close together. And my background helps me to really understand the day in the life of a realtor. But some people think that, I'll just, we'll give them a credit for the carpet or that red wall or whatever. And they really don't realize that their home is in a competition. How would you speak to that, Jenny?
Well, it's true, because even like what do they say? Like if you're first place, if you're second place, you're the first place loser, right? If you come in second place. And so a lot of these television shows I love watching right now, my favorite is World of Dance competition. And so you have to, they say you have to bring it every time, bring it hard, and, really put your best foot out there when you're performing. And so the same thing is with a house coming on the market. Why would people do anything less than the very best to present their house for sale? But I think a lot of people are either they're not being educated, I think, is probably the biggest factor. Yes. The sellers, they don't understand the importance of it. If they are told that staging is just, take your personal pictures down and, and then your house is ready to go, and they're not considering flow and function and, presentation. Is there color? Is there things to, bring the buyer in? Any seller that's out there that's had their house on the market and you've had a ton of showings, but you haven't had any offers, you're coming in second place, maybe even third. So I tell my clients, you're the bridesmaid, you're not the bride, and you're being used to sell the houses that are selling. And you got to get out of the used category, because those buyers, if they're serious buyers, they bought somewhere. And we're in such a very competitive market. John and I were in the process of purchasing. And so, we looked at a ton of houses and finally got our offer accepted on a house. But even as a stager, I know, yay, even as a stager walking in, I'm like, I can't believe, even just looking online, I can't believe people are presenting houses this way. And I think shame on the people marketing the house, which are the agents. I'm going to hold them accountable. You don't put a product out there that's not ready to show. And I always use the analogy of like when buyers look online, it's like it's an interview. They're like interviewing the house. And when they go in person, it's a date. And when I've done presentations, I have a picture of a woman with like curlers on and she's in her bathrobe. And I'm like, would you hire this person looking like this? And then I have a picture of Nick Nolte with the totally crazy hair. It's probably a mugshot for what it is. And would you go on a date with this person? And
do you put that in your quotes, Jenny?
I don't have that. No, I do presentations, but I should do that. That'd be kind of funny.
You know what? I've heard that for years. And I think I've heard it from Joanne, a lot of people. And I've got to buy the thing. But one of these days when we get back to we can be around people, I would love to come up and do that. I think that would just be a hoot.
I mean, when most people have jobs, how did they look when they went on their job interview? You have first impressions matter. So, and I'm a competitive person. I not in a nasty negative way, but I like winning. I don't like
Sure.
losing
Who
staging.
doesn't?
Yeah. And so, I mean, when people put their house on the market, when the intent is to sell, why would you do it anything less than making it the very best product that possible to purchase?
Yes. And a good point with, because I will tell you, I don't know about you, but here in Houston, more and more I'm getting homeowners contact me directly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, there's stories behind all of that, but sometimes it's, well, my realtor didn't think I needed to stage, but
Yep.
I know and think I do. And, you know, shame on that realtor, you know, like you said, because you're doing your client a disservice not to maximize their equity. You know, when I teach Trek classes and, you know, for realtors, I let them know, you know, offer staging up front. Even if they turn it down, you've covered
Right.
yourself. Because if you don't, here's what happens: price reduction, price reduction. And then they start talking to somebody at church or at work or whatever, and they're going, really, your home's still on the market? Because we sold ours with, you know, our realtor had ta-da like heck or sensational
Right.
staging, and we sold them 10 days. And then they're going to be, you know, going, abada, abada, abada. You know,
Right.
so but if you have, I have a realtor who actually has them sign a, you know, kind of a, here's what we're going to do together as a team. And if they do turn down staging, then at least it's documented. And if they have, you know, if they forget, you can show them, go, you know, you did turn it down. It's okay. Better up front, but better, you know, it's better to do it than not do it.
Right.
Let's salvage those days on market and protect your equity, you
Well, yeah,
know.
because it's not for the realtor to decide whether the seller needs it or wants it. So when they don't even talk about it, they're doing a disservice, like you said, to the seller. I had a client, I think it was last year we staged, her realtor had her drop $20,000. And then she called us and we got her house staged within a couple of days. The first person who came in bought it. And
Wow.
so then she'd been on the market for a couple of months. So she was really getting, it was her idea to stage. And the realtor was like, oh, you don't need to do that. Well, 20,000 is a lot of money to give up as a seller. And
Absolutely.
as a realtor, I mean, their commission is a percent of that. So it's much, much smaller, but thinking big picture, like they have a fiduciary responsibility to get the very most in the sale. So at least present it up front. As you said, if the seller says no, you have that documented. So there's CYA.
Yep.
However, it's, it's not up to the realtors to decide the seller doesn't need it or want it because the market's hot. We don't need to stage. I'm like, you just left a bunch of money on the table because all three offers we put in on houses, we offered more than list because that's the kind of market we're in. So
Yep.
and these are houses that were presented well, and the ones that were crap, that weren't updated, they weren't presented well, I would not have given a full price offer. We started nitpicking.
They give lowball offers. Yeah,
because you pick, we went in, we start picking apart if the house was dated or it wasn't. I mean, it just wasn't presented for the buyer. Just basic things like slap some paint on the walls, people. How hard is that to do as a seller? Do something that shows you made an effort that you really want your house to sell.
yes,
And
yes.
go in and you notice all the things that are wrong with it instead of just being brought in. We staged a house again. We've been getting a lot of calls for houses that have been sitting on the market, haven't sold, and then they're bringing us in. And I would love for that to shift to where they're getting it staged before it ever comes on the market, because then you have the best buyer experience.
And you mentioned such a good point, Jenny, and I know that's why you're passionate about education through your school. And I of course have changed to doing Zoom workshops, but even complimentary. The more we can educate the realtor folks, because so many realtors are new. Recent statistics are 85% of realtors are part-time or new. Okay, well, they need educating. They can't count on the old timers to go, oh, I've never staged, never had to stage,
Right.
I mean, I had someone call me last year who was like, oh, I've been in the business 20 years. I've never had to stage, but I might have to stage.
You know what I say? I said, you've had to stage, you just didn't do it. I actually said that to a realtor, said that to me. I said, every property needs to be, so you had to stage, you just opted not to, and now you've seen the light. Yeah.
Exactly. Good point. So she's like, yeah, everything around here is staged. So I guess I have to stage. And we have a saying that, we use whenever possible, and that is, don't let your unstaged listing be the reason they bought your competition's staged listing. And that point, points to what you said, Jenny. about in being a competition. You're going to set them up for, oh, okay, do I want that or that? Well, gosh, I want that.
Yeah, because you can even do the analogy of like the bridesmaid or the bride, or you're the backup singer, you're not the star up on stage, and you're not the front singer, you're the person in the background supporting that person's, their money coming in, because you're just a support role, because you're helping that house. It doesn't show well, is helping promote how great the house that it's staged looks, and that's the one that's going to get
absolutely
the
yeah. You're lifting them up further as you slide off into hundreds of days on market.
Yeah, we just staged a house a week ago that has been on the market off and on for 2 years.
Wow.
And I know, and it's a beautiful home. It's kind of out there. It's in a town called Elizabeth, so it's a little bit of a journey, but acreage and semi-custom. It was a former model of a builder that built these semi-customs. So the materials that are in there, how they put in like all the different elements so people could come see the model and make choices at the design center. So it has kind of a little bit of a mishmash, slate floor mixed with cherry wood, and so kind of unique, but their furniture was dated. And
right.
So they decided, I think they're the ones that contacted me directly, because they're like, or maybe the realtor referred them to me. So they have they're on their third or fourth realtor. And so anyhow, we staged it, and they were so cute, because I don't often get to see the clients when they come back, because it was, they're an older couple and we'd been there all afternoon. So I saw them hanging out in the driveway, and I'm like, come on in, we're almost done. And I wish I'd had my camera rolling from the start, because we got a little bit of footage, but they literally like, oh my God, this looks like a model. And the wife was like screaming, oh my God, get up here, get to see the bedroom. And it's very rewarding. And the husband was like, I just know this is going to work. This is going to make the difference. And so they had put such faith in what we do and the transformation. He goes, I can't believe how good it looks. So, what we do is not just, like you said, fluffing a pillow or something like that. Is making the house more marketable. And I, in this case, giving these people hope. And so I texted the realtor. I said, we've done our job. I said, now it's up to you. She's got to get that property sold. And I don't know all the pricing and marketing side of that, what's happening in that area, but at least it's presented well for buyers. So
yes, you've done your part. And that's, and that's the thing, we can make a home look like a model home, which is what we do. But if it's not priced correctly, our hands are tied. It's got to be staged and priced.
And what they don't see is like, that was a long day, because it was over an hour from the warehouse to get to this place. And I told the team, I said, I'm the one that controlled that. There was my project. So I had the pull list and all that kind of thing. But we're not going back to the warehouse. We've got to get everything we need. Well, I had left a whole page got left off of the pull list. So we're in the warehouse. I think I'm like super organized. I get there. I'm like, oh my God, we forgot the basement table. We forgot things. So I had to go back to the warehouse, come back, and the team kind of did what they could. But we were there probably another 2 hours finishing up. We're sweating, and bed platforms, my nemesis, those black frames, when you buy them, you put them together, it works. But then when you take them apart, some parts fall off. You don't have the parts you need. So we had to bring extra parts for that. But we didn't have the screws. It didn't go. So I'm on my hands and knees taping. We had some masking tape. That bed is held up with masking tape around the frame. So I'm just praying that nobody lays on that bed, because it could very well just go.
Well, you say your warehouse is an hour. For us, it's an hour anywhere for us to stage, because we do inside the loop, and our warehouse is on the north side, about 25 minutes from me, further north. But I have such a fabulous price on 6 units now. We just added another one for shipping and receiving, that, I don't mind. I mean, in Houston, you drive an hour anyway to get anywhere, but a table base, that would be tough. We've forgotten things where I'm going, okay, I have to go out in the 100-degree weather and go shop to get stuff, because I'm certainly not going back to the warehouse. But a table base would be difficult.
I know. And then we had the table base. We had to get the parts for the bed, because they couldn't put the bed together without it. So anyway, as organized as I planned to be, stuff still doesn't go. And yesterday the team, so that one of the things that people looking at the industry, they always say, oh, what you do is so fun. You get to go and decorate houses. They don't see the logistics, right? Oh, yeah. And so like yesterday, the team rolls up. We had a destaging scheduled at this condo that when they delivered, I had 2 trucks running that day. So I had my own truck, and then I had rented a truck, and the driver of that truck didn't see this clearance bar. And so hit this thing going to the condo, and it was cemented in with these poles.
Oh, that happened a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah. And so that whole pole fell out. He just, like, the wall kind of crumbled and so forth. So this is this place. So we roll up yesterday, and the guy it's just like people don't understand. The guy that's the manager, he's like, you can't come in here, blah, blah. He was like so super snarky. And I thought, they don't even know what we deal with behind the scenes with people's attitudes. It's like, we're just here to get our stuff out. Don't give me any attitude. Your wall is fixed. So it's just sort of like, logistics and having to go back repeated times and so forth. People who have not really looked into the business in depth, that's what you have to plan for. And so I always say the F word for staging, there's two of them, flexibility and fluidity, right? Because if you
That's
are
for
a
life,
person
Jenny.
but there's people that are very systematic and things, they're planners and things like to go as planned. And when things go awry, they have a hard time coping because it's not part of their DNA.
Yes.
And that's what staging is about. I mean, you have
That's
to be
what staging is about. Yep. And I'm going to talk about that, when I talk on your conference coming up in September, because I'm very blessed, strategically planned and blessed to have talent with me that possesses the characteristics that you speak about and much, much more, which makes for, having my company soul essence thrive, which everybody has their own company soul essence, so to speak. So Jenny, let's talk about statistics, because one of the things that I teach and espouse to is that, typically there's a right brain and a left brain, and I'm not going to say male or female because it crosses genders, but there's usually one that's like, oh yeah, I want to stage. I watch a lot of HGTV, and we got to stage. And then there's another side that's like, yeah, well, that's just a waste of money. Let's just put it on the market. It's not going to do anything. So I share in every one of my proposals or quotes, statistics to speak to the left brain and pictures to speak to the right brain, before and afters. Can you share with us? I know you have published the recent National Association of Realtors, I believe was the source, right? For 2020 staging statistics. Do you have a little bit of information? I know it's really involved, and I actually share the whole report just to make sure there's something there for somebody. But what are some highlights on those stats that you'd like to share, Jenny?
Well, yeah. So it's the 2020. That's the home staging industry statistics. God, I feel like that guy in the film with Dick and Jane. Jim Carrey, you can't say the word statistics.
Easy for you to say.
Name. Home staging industry statistics. So Jeff, you can cut that part out, maybe. Anyway.
Nah, this is real. We're keeping it real here, Jen.
So NAR has theirs. They come out with every 2 years. So 2021, they should come out with another survey, a profile of home staging. It's a PDF. I'm amazed how many realtors have never even seen that. It's funny. When I mention it, they're like, what?
Yes.
And it's on their website.
Yep.
And so our survey, is the home staging stats. And what the differences are, they both have data on days on market and so forth. Ours takes it from the staging perspective as far as our process and our impact on the industry, which is really important. And the NAR side talks about it from, the listing agent, the buyer's agent, the seller, and the buyer. So both combined, I think, are really powerful. And the numbers don't lie. And we've been tracking stats since 2003. That's how far back they go. And I've been doing that for the industry at large since then, because that was when I was first asked to pull numbers together. So as a stager, you want to be tracking your own data, and then you also have these national numbers you can use. And so one of the things I put in the thing was the impact staging in general has on the industry. Most people don't realize, there was probably a little over 5 million houses bought and sold last year in the US. And so I started thinking like, well, I know how many houses we stage, and I, in the statistical survey and so forth, I estimated, and this is probably a generous estimate, that there's probably fewer than 10,000 professional home stagers worldwide.
Wow.
And that equates to approximately 1% of realtors, because realtors are worldwide. We have NAR, the realtor is a United States term, but they actually have realtors in other countries. And they have global reach and so forth. And that's about 1% of the realtors, or 0.5% of the licensed real estate agents. So a real estate agent who's not a realtor. So I say we're like a microcosm of the real estate industry, but we make a big impact. Because when I started looking at the numbers of houses that I know were staged by the professional stagers I know, I estimated 20% of all the properties sold were staged. And some markets it's going to be a lot more than that, and others might be fewer.
Right.
And that was just kind of a general. So if I were able to really delve into those numbers, I bet the number could even be higher.
Sure.
And so what for me, what this number means is we make an impact on, if there's 5 million, let's just use that number, houses that were sold, that's a million, 20% is 1 million. So 1 million buyers, 1 million sellers, 1 million listing agents, 1 million buyers agents, right? Potentially that we touched with our staging. And so that's huge.
That is
that's a
huge.
big number. That's a big number. And so for me, it's like, why can't we get a seat at the table with some of these players that are putting the data out that's incorrect? So the NAR survey, I go along with it until they get to the part where they say the average investment for staging or average cost is $500.
Yeah.
And all of us go, oh, we cringe, because that is, what does that even apply to? That's a
So Jennie, let's talk about that briefly, because, you know, I see those and I'm like, really? Wow. So, you know, for the public consumers, maybe you're a homeowner out there, when you see those statistics, number one, it's, you know, throughout the country, you need to look, you know, regionally, but that's not a vacant staging. I don't know about you, Jennie, but, you know, for my truck to roll out, professional movers, you know, trained staging professionals, have insurance, you know, all of that, not hobbyist.
right.
We have a minimum. It's certainly not $500. So I think what they're lumping in there is a consultation. So a consultation, folks who aren't familiar, is typically what we call a walk and talk. Some will be with a report, some without. We put a report, or what I call a punch list, on all of them. But that's going in and advising you what to do in the home to prepare it to appeal to as many people as possible. And it goes beyond, you know, declutter, depersonalize. It gets into strategic furniture placement, removal, addition, et cetera. You know, that would be a high end of a consultation. It's, you know, for us, it's roughly, you know, 1% of the square feet. Sometimes people do price point, but at 500, that would be, you know, about a 4,500 square foot home walk and talk for us. Not a vacant, people. That's not going to a warehouse, sweating your butt off, pulling, creating a design, pulling everything, creating a palette and pulling everything and getting it on a truck and installing it. That's certainly not.
No.
Right.
And in fact, yeah. And so that's very misleading. And that's why people will say, well, can't you do it? The expectation is you should do it for less. And pricing is such an important aspect of our business, and stagers that are in the industry, if they haven't been taught proper pricing, they probably are not charging enough. They're not looking at their profitability and so forth. And so it's up to us to educate the clients. So I did the infographic with the survey, and that's available on the homestagingstats.com. So it's a 34-page report. And then we also pulled out some individual graphics to talk about an average house sells, goes under contract 20 times faster than one that's not staged.
Okay,
an average house 30 times faster.
Repeat that statistic, Jennie, please.
So an average house sells 30 times faster, up to 30 times faster than a non-staged regular house. And the luxury was 20x. So 30x for the regular, 20x for a luxury property. So we're talking, and the data supports that. And these are houses, we looked at houses that were on the market, didn't sell, and then were staged. They got offers, and those that were staged from the very beginning and then got offers.
Okay, so let me speak to that, Jennie, very quickly. I'm going to piggyback on that. So for people who don't understand the potency or effectiveness of a days on market, say, well, I've got time. I'm not going to spend $3,000 or $4,000 or 2,500, whatever. I don't need it to sell that fast. Okay, let me explain to you the result of that. Days on market is interpreted by the realtor who's representing the buyer for your home as a very critical point. The longer it's on the market without an offer and not going pending, there is a perception, if you will, that there's something wrong with the house. So after 30 days, I think is the typical barometer in most parts of the country, right, Jennie? Mm-hmm. That perception starts going down, and the subliminal, if not overt, thinking is, what's wrong with the house? Okay, you know, I really like it. It's in the right area and this and that, and it's still available. Yeah, let's knock 20 off, or let's give a low ball offer. So vacant homes have that same perception as an illusion of a distressed home that you had to leave really quick and you're paying double mortgages, as does a lengthy days on market. So
Right.
yeah, that's a really good point for people who
Yeah,
don't
because it's the
realize.
desirability factor. So you're right, people think there's something wrong with it or it's overpriced, so you're not going to get your price. And a price reduction is a loss versus the investment in staging is a tax write-off. It's considered advertising.
Okay,
So
Jenny, I know you talk as fast as I do. That is key, critical. Did you hear that, people? A price reduction is simply a big fat loss, whereas the investment in staging, according to IRS Section 523, is a tax write-off. Check with your accountant. But Barb Shores worked very hard years ago to get that implemented into the tax code, and it is a possible tax deduction. So yeah, that's huge. And again, that's critical knowledge. I think with realtors can be so overwhelmed. I try to share with realtors, learn a couple of things that feel good to you or easy for you to say so that you can have the confidence in advising them to stage prior to going on board. You don't have to learn everything that, we've taken years to learn here, but if it's a tax write-off, number one, and some easy statistics too, those are two powerful punches right there.
Right. And so the survey has information geared to target our clients. So realtors, sellers, builders, investors. So there's information for them, but there's also information that stagers can use for their business to also use to educate other people. So one of them I put together, and to my knowledge, I don't think it exists anywhere else, but it's the home staging consultation process. So there's 13 steps in a consultation, and then there's also 16 steps in a vacant. So when people say, well, when they don't understand, when we toss a number out to them, they don't know the whole process because they're not in our industry. So they think like, why am I being charged X amount of dollars? So you have to educate them about the consultation. It's not just I show up at your house and I give advice. I mean, it's, 13 different steps we go through in that process. Realtors trust us to take them out of the hot seat. We have to be able to size up the house. We have to size up the homeowner right when we walk in the door. The relatability factor is really key to get them to want to do what we are suggesting.
Exactly. And that's not even on your list, Jenny. Those things, I think somebody posted recently, you're not paying me for my, for the time I spend your paying me for the, 20-year steps, then
right. Expertise.
Your expertise that took years and a lot of investment in education and on, depending on who you are and where you're at in the industry. Yeah. One of the common things, and I'm sure that you've run across this, Jenny, is I hear this practically every week is, okay, well, if we sell the home like the first week, do we get a reduction or anything on that? And I said, no, but I guess what? I won't even charge you extra.
Right.
Because I did my job. So, and then, so that's a little levity that I put in there, but the reality of it is that you've got to educate them. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, client, et cetera. What most people don't realize is that probably 85% of the work is done before we even come in on install day. And right. Let me just break that down for you. Starts with a preview, then it starts with a design, then a color palette, then organization, then sweating in the warehouse and picking everything. It goes on, and I think you could even elaborate that to even more than 16 steps.
I probably could,
but the majority of it's done before installation day.
Yeah. And this clients see like maybe they see it 1 or 2 steps. They see the finished product. They might be there when we're picking up or something like that. But for the most part, they don't see all the work that goes into it, and the TV shows don't show it either. So then the idea that staging should be cheap, that's where they might get that notion. So it's up to us to educate our target audience. So statistics, they're based on data. It's not just pie in the sky. They're not made up. So if you have an analytical person you're dealing with, is like, show me the data. We got the data. One of the other key things we pulled out is that staged properties sell for up to 20% more than those that are not staged. And that's the same number that NAR found in their survey. NAR has, 50% of buyers are willing to pay more for a property that's staged. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer.
It's a
81% of buyers,
no-brainer.
I know 81% of buyers say that it's easier for them to visualize a staged property as their future home than one that's not staged. So all this data is out there. So then to me, it's like, and I don't mean to be like super blunt, but you know me, Kat, somebody who decides, sees all that data and decides not to, they're an idiot. It's like, why would you leave money on the table? Seriously.
Exactly.
Right. And then a realtor who doesn't promote staging goes, oh, we don't need to do that, because they're just thinking short term. Yes, your house is going to get an offer. You could sell for even more. And I'm telling you, getting a seller an extra 5 or 10,000, that's huge to them.
That is huge. And, I'm sorry. And I love all my realtor partners, but I of course love and adore more the ones who know the value of staging. And I'm sorry, but you are doing your client a disservice, and you are, like you said, stupid. I'm going to say another negative word. I'm sorry, but you're lazy.
Yeah.
You are lazy. If you hear this information and you still, do not present it, you're lazy. And I understand you may be timid. I taught quite a few classes last year, and I would go around the room. Sometimes we'd have as many 40 agents in a room. When we had smaller, I would ask, what would you like to get out of the class today? A resounding, to the majority of them, I'd like to know how to talk to buyers or to sellers,
right,
to get them on board with staging. So I understand. I know lazy is a strong word. That could be coupled with, I'm just timid. I don't know.
Or fearful.
Yeah, I'm fearful. I don't know how to say it because I'm afraid I'll lose the listing if I ask them. So here's my message to you, realtors. You start spending money the minute you sign an agreement. When I was actively pursuing real estate, now I just do family and friends, I would sit across the table and say, as much as you're interviewing me, I'm interviewing you too. And the reason being is we need to see that we're both on the same page, because the minute you sign a contract, I'm going to start spending money on flyers, on marketing, on open houses, etc. So if we're not on the same page, we may not be a good fit. And many may not be that confident to say that. So create yourself a tool. I believe marketing, staging is the most marketing or strategic marketing tool you can do. That would be an easy one to remember.
Mm-hmm.
And have a cheat sheet where they sign it or initial it. But you got to present it. People don't know what you don't tell them.
Right. They don't know. And I think a lot of people come, especially occupied houses, they come from a place of perhaps fear of telling sellers things that are wrong with their house. And staging, to some degree, it's not rocket science. Some people can walk in, you can see things are cluttered, things are, there's too much in a space. The realtor, you want to take yourself out of that role because you don't want to be seen as a critic of the property to the seller, because then the seller's going to think, you don't even like my house. Why would I want to list with you? And so some realtors start saying things too soon. They don't have the listing yet. You want to pull yourself out of the equation of being the one telling the seller,
let us be the bad guy, right, Jenny?
Yeah. Because you can risk the listing. I just went through this experience with one of the agents I work with where they didn't allow me to be that person. They started kind of managing that process. And so when the seller, got frustrated or what have you, all the blame went on the realtor. And so I said, you have got to let me be the one to take that, because they could have deflected things to me, and I can take the heat. I'm not tied to the sale of the home. And I could, smooth things over. And I come from a position of because I'm not earning money on the sale of the house. Sellers will listen and understand, I'm not this is all for your benefit. I don't make any money, anything more than what I'm being paid for the consultation.
And Jenny, I've had realtors who said, on a walk and talk, Kat, I asked her to do that and she rolled her eyes at me, but she did it for you. That is a prime example of, they'll listen to the professional stager because of that involvement. It's a different position. One of the things that I teach realtors is, and it's very easy, just a one-liner, and right when at the get-go, walking into a home. Thank you for inviting me into your home. Now I'm going to point out some things, and it's strictly for you to sell, appeal to as many people as possible and sell your home as quickly as possible. You do want that, right? Get them to shake their head.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Great. Okay. And I think that lets them know, okay, I'm not here to criticize, all your crosses or all your pictures or, whatever that you have that's personalized. You're there to get the same result as they want. You want to sell your home as quickly as possible for as much money as possible, correct? Great. I'm going to help you do that.
Yeah. And then
Jennie, I could talk to you for the next 2 hours, but I want people to, I don't know who we have left on here, but I want to leave at least 5 minutes for questions.
Sure.
I want to hit the last bullet point. I might not have put it on the flyer, but I did put it on one of the posts. Give me one, I know we could do 15, but give me one tip, just one item on how a homeowner could create a first impression. Just whatever, random, first impression.
So I don't think I read the flyers. My mind is thinking of like first impression when people walk in. Well, one of the biggest things, clean your house. I think that's probably one of the biggest things.
Clean your house.
Make sure the house is very clean and pulled together, tidy, clean.
Tip clean.
Yeah, because people, when I walk in, I feel like if the house is it's not grimy. Like if you walk in these houses, then they're just gross. And like nobody took care of this place. I don't want to buy a project, and so that's probably one of the biggest things homeowners can do in addition to staging. And that's what the first C of staging: clean, clutter-free, and color. Add or remove color.
Yep. The three C's, clean, clutter-free, and color. And a stager can help you.
Right. So presenting it from the very beginning, when you walk in and the house is pulled together, it's clean, it's organized as far as like how it presents. I mean, there's a purpose, there's a placement for everything that's in the room. Then you feel like it's presented well for the buyer walking in. And
it's welcoming. And I'm going to piggyback on the welcoming. One of my pet peeves, Jennie, is it actually starts from the exterior, as you know, and the front porch, the door, etc. So one of my pet peeves, and I am now actually providing them for all of my vacants, is to have a new welcome sign. I don't know if you can read that.
Yeah. Hello there. It's really cute.
This is actually mine. This is mine. I just bought.
Welcome mat.
A welcome mat. And people want no evidence of you living there. Okay, so that's the first thing they see. If it's a worn, torn, which most of us, they become worn and torn, spend $10, or hire a stager like us that provides them included, but have a new welcome mat. It starts that first impression off with, this is a well taken care of, clean, clutter-free, strategic color property. And you're starting off.
Yeah, because when people drive up, they're already forming an opinion about the curb appeal, the landscaping. And then as they're, standing by the front door, the realtor's fiddling, trying to get the key in, and they're looking around and they're seeing the cobwebs and the bird poop from there's a nest or whatever the issue is, or the worn brass. So it's just this, it takes very little effort to get a house prepared for sale compared to the benefit that the seller will receive.
Absolutely. And it really is just a little sweat equity. And then a whole nother episode will be on the power of paint, but sweat equity, because so many of us, forget, not me, because I don't drive in my garage. It's quite full. But many of us go in through the garage and we forget what the front door looks like. And that's where your potential buyer is walking through. Jeff, can you post and see, does anybody have any questions? We're going to open up to questions for Jennie or myself in the next few minutes. We're going over a little, but actually, no, we still have a few minutes. So, hey, Daryl, thanks for hanging in there. Do you have any questions for us? I don't know who else is on there. I can't see everybody. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's see. Personalized, okay. So we have a question. It says the first impression is most important, yet some sellers want to personalize that. How do you address that, Jennie?
Well, personalizing, like having their, their family sign out, like welcome to the Smith house or something like that. So we talk about depersonalizing because what I share is when buyers come to the property, it's all about them. We don't want them focusing on who's the seller. And so I let my sellers know you need to, it's not the buyer doesn't need to know who you are, what you do for a living, your background, race, faith, family status, education, where you work, none of their beeswax. So it's none of their business because they could, they may have opinions about some of those elements.
Yes. And it's a distraction is the bottom line is it's a distraction from looking at the features of the home, the crown molding, high ceilings, which is what they're buying.
Because even like yesterday, I looked at a house that's, dated, but anyhow, they have a really that backyard has this beautiful, setting, and it has one of those, it's enclosed, like overhang. So it's like an outdoor room. They have all these faded ivy with the little grapes and stuff hanging from it. It just looked messy. So I'm like, and
Right.
then the old, so I said, you got to take all that down. I do. I'm like, yeah, because I said, that to me, it's not going to photograph well. And I said, and it's, looks kind of cluttery. So sellers, we get used to how our homes feel and look when we live in our homes, we get used to all of that. So
Right.
having that objective opinion coming in is important. The last thing
Absolutely. Fresh
yeah,
eyes. Yeah.
about
And
sellers adding stuff,
you made
personalizing.
a good point, the little small grapes. So when I do a consultation, I let folks know, yeah, that's got to go. That's got to go. It's too small. And what happens is it translates into clutter via the camera. So,
Right.
there's a way to let clients know without insulting them. Like, you just got too much crap. It's dated. And I've competed against and won business because of some stagers not knowing how to talk properly. So you need to be kind. You need to learn how to, if you're a stager, how to tactfully talk about that. My team loves it that I always tell them the why, because they know I'm the final tweaker.
Yeah.
And I'll say, you know what? I want you to move that over there, and let me tell you why. And I'll give them a design element. Why? Does that mean that's the only way to put it? No, but my name's on the wall,
Right.
on the building, so I get to final tweak. But back to that, I think sometimes if you explain to the seller, such as, that translates into clutter, because the camera will pick it up. Anything smaller than I'm dating myself. I don't even know if we had one when I was a kid, but smaller than a bread box or small,
A bowling ball. Some people use that as an analogy. Bowling ball.
Oh, what kind of bowling
ball? A bowling ball. Some people will say that, like, if it's smaller than a bowling ball.
Oh, I like that. I'll have to use that, because bread box seems like I'm really ancient. Which
I mean, and so I always take it from the perspective of the buyer. So I'm working with sellers. I'm like, who's the target buyer for your house? So yesterday, I'm like, it's probably going to be an older millennial or a younger Gen Xer. And I said, and they don't like window treatments. They, you want to have unfuss the windows. She had these old, swaggy drapes, which, nobody wants that.
No.
So, but I didn't say they were ugly. I didn't say they were dated. I said the buyer is not going to want them. And the selling feature is the light and the view out these windows. You don't need to be covering up with fabric.
Yep.
And she kind of was like, okay. So when we can explain it from, this is your home. However, you're selling to a buyer. So it is all about presenting for that target buyer. And you could hate everything that's done. Just know, but the buyer's going to love it. You're going to get the sale you want. That's the goal.
Absolutely. And that's a good point, Jenny. I'm going to just cap that, and then we're going to take some questions. And that is, you'll talk to a seller and they're like, oh, great, you're going to bring in that. I love that color. Well, that's great. I'm glad you do. However, what we're doing is we're appealing to as many people as possible, using your fixed elements as a design palette and to make it cohesive. But, it's really not all about what they like. It's
Right.
about what's going to appeal to the demographics, psychographics, the area, the type of the home, all of that. And they need to, trust who they're hiring, that they have the credentials and the expertise and the experience to make that happen. So I think we're going to cap with the last question that Jeffrey has brought up. And that is, and we'll go a little bit over, but that's okay. It's our show. You can stop watching if you want, or watch it on the
right.
Jenny, can you talk briefly about IHOSP, International Association of Staging Professionals, and the impact on the world? And I'm going to add to that / briefly about Worldwide Staging Week, which I am honored to be the ambassador this year again for the third year in a row for a group here called Say Yes to Youth, for abused youth. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that's,
Sure.
Impacts the world?
Sure. So IHSP is the acronym. So International Association of Home Staging Professionals. So it is a global organization. It's a industry trade association for the home staging professionals. And so we have about over 4,000 members worldwide. So we are the very largest. We're also the longest running, because it started in 99. And so over the years, we've added different elements to it. We all had conferences, we got our vendor program, we have additional education. People can receive the opportunity to network with your colleagues in chapters that are either live or virtual. So IHOSP is an association. We call it your business support association. So it has a lot of things to help people. And I call it your home in the home staging industry. That's one of our things that we've trademarked, your home in the home staging industry, because it's very hard to be in this industry and go it alone. You need colleagues, because there's why figure it out all alone when you can talk to a colleague and say, hey, this is a situation, what did you do? Because they have more experience, or what would you recommend? There's great value in that. And then there's a nonprofit arm of IHOSP called the IHOSP Foundation. And the foundation raises money for Worldwide Staging Service Week, which has been going on, I believe, since 2005 or 2006. And it's usually right around 9/11. So it was September 12th to 19th is usually when we do our projects. And all around the world, people are doing service projects to benefit other people in their communities. And they get donations, they donate themselves as far as, it could be goods and services. It could be anything from like what you're doing for the children. We've done in the past, we've done a senior home, we've done a homeless shelter for the Salvation Army that was housed 55 people. We've done pet ones, we've done the children, the pet, the families. We did a foster thing as well.
Right.
So it's just giving back to your communities. And so that is happening in September. So I'm really proud of all the different members across the world that are doing projects in the name of Worldwide Staging Service Week.
Yes, because this year, of course, we were challenged with, possibly, comfort levels of different people and doing things differently. And we may even push ours to the end of September, beginning of October, which I know is fine. I mean, I think you've spoke, Jenny, you can really do it, anytime, within a 3-month or so span. So I'm going to give a plug for us here locally. If you are local to Houston, and even if you're not local and you want to contribute, please reach out to me. Again, I'm going to be the ambassador for our Worldwide Staging Week. And we will, because we're going to do our conference virtual. I'm not sure what kind of funding we're going to get, for auctions and things like that. So we are, reaching out to the community. We'll be doing an assessment next week to see what the needs are. And this organization, Say Yes to Youth, has been going on for over 30 years. They are building bungalows to expand. These are abused children in many different capacities, from sexual to physical abuse, et cetera. We are going to be looking at their offices. That, I guess one of the ladies that work there said, gosh, when I come to work, it's like being in a prison. And I'm like, oh, terrible. Breaks my heart. So we want to change that. And because it's a facility that they have their offices, but there's also a gathering area, I think a community area, and some offices where families, youth get counseling. So we want to beautify that space and give back to the community. So if it's in your heart, you can donate cash. We'll have Venmo set up. You can donate, we'll send out a needs list if there's things that you would like to donate. Even stagers, in our chapter, out of our chapter, who have a surplus inventory that would, be needed on our needs list. Everything will be welcome, and we'll be documenting it and sending out more information.
It's all tax deductible because it is a nonprofit. So we have the nonprofit EIN. It's all legit. The nonprofit was set up in 1999, so it's been around a long time. And so, actually maybe 2005, excuse me. When was the IHOSP Foundation? So it was probably early 2000s. But anyhow, we have the EIN number. It is a 501c3, so it's all legit. Yep. So anything.
Yeah. So you'll all get tax letters and so forth for you to write off. Anything that you donate is absolutely 100% legit.
And I'll give a plug for our conference. So we have a conference coming up end of September for IHOSP. So it's a virtual live conference. It'll be the 29th, 30th, and October 1st. And so we have 3 keynote speakers that we've paid money to. So it's not a free event because there's no value in free. You have to, anything worth having, you're going to be investing in, whether it's a small amount. So it's only $275 for the ticket if you're an IHOSP member. And if not, it's $425. And that includes a year of membership, which other groups don't provide that. They make you pay more, but you don't actually get the benefit of membership. And so we do allow that and, welcome everybody, but we have really great education and a new designation being issued. We're the only association that actually gives credentials at our conferences. We've done this for years. So this year is going to be the IHOSP Cultural Diversity Expert, CDE. And people that, if you're in an area where there are different cultures, you go to someone's house to do a consultation or something, and they have things you don't understand or recognize from their faith or just how they live, it can be awkward to understand, but also, advise them why they need to remove things, or even in interacting with them, their reactions and responses are very telling. We take it from our own perspective, not understanding that and I'll use the one, I think this is correct, but the Chinese culture, if they're chatting a lot when you're there, to each other in their language. We think that's good that they're talking and sharing, and that's actually not good. And I think it's culturally, if they're quiet or whatever, that's actually better. So these little nuances that you need to learn from that perspective, plus just the whole thing that's been happening the last few months with diversity and inclusivity, being able to have that and incorporate that in your business, I think is super important. So that's on the third day. You get a lot of value for volume, and we're producing it in a way that no one else has done. So it's gonna be very unique and different. It'll be, high energy. It's not just looking at a talking head on the screen. There'll be a more interaction and so forth. So, it's not as much work as to pull together a live event, but it's still a lot of work behind the scenes to make it happen and to make it something that people want to attend. And everything will be recorded. So people, if they can't sit from 9 a.m. until 4 at their computer watching and listening, they can.
It'll be recorded. Awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can contact Jennie for more information on that. I'm excited to be a participant and a speaker on how to hire,
players.
Yeah, what did I call that? How to?
I think you said how to hire A players.
Hire, inspire a dream team, which I do have.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, all my dream team. So we're going to close. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Jennie. And anybody, if you're watching this on the replay, which most of you do, we typically get over 1,000 to 2,000 views, and most of it's afterwards. Ask questions, because I go in and I answer, and I know Jennie will as well. Any questions or comments, we're going to respond. We want this to be very interactive. So I'm going to leave you with our standard, and that is stay positive.
That's good.
Stay hopeful and stay connected. I'm so blessed that we can connect this way. Do connect with us next Friday, same time, new topic. We're going to be on location at a project in Dallas, but I'll be Zooming with my husband and business partner and musician extraordinaire, talking about music and how the psychology of music when we enter a home, whether it's in a buying mode or, working from home or living or dwelling in our home. So that's going to be really exciting. We're going to take it on the road as we do a wonderful project in downtown Dallas. Until then, namaste. Thanks, Jennie.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Hit the right button.